It's funny you mentioned breaking up the wands, like preparing for like the very serious panel I was gonna have. When I thought that there would be like a more laissez-faire version of Harry Potter panel later on. In my preparations, I did a lot of research into like the Deathly Hallows and the symbolism of three throughout the Bible and so on and so forth. And the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. We've got this all-powerful, omnipotent being. We've got a sire of his that is not all-powerful, but has his own resurrection abilities, represented in the ring. And then we've got the ghost, the Holy Ghost, represented by the cloak that can make you invisible even to death itself. And it was always really interesting to me that they chose to break the Elder Wand.
But I didn't think he did that in the books. I thought he did that in the movies, but not in the books. In the books, I thought he put it back. I thought he put it back with Dumbledore.
That's what I thought. He threw it away. But we're talking more about the movies in this case. And so that actually changes the allegory drastically. And J.K. Rowling specifically mentioned it and drew some criticism of it because she fought for the original ending to be preserved in the films, and it just didn't happen. Because J.K. Rowling, in case you didn't know, is a practicing Christian, and she intentionally put a lot of Christian mythology. I apologize if you take offense to the word mythology. I'm trying to be as non-committal as possible.
Yeah, ideology would be the
term. The Christian ideology. She worked a lot of it into the books, a lot of the symbolism, as much as possible, which is hilarious because so many Christians were really up in arms about the book series in and of itself.
Yeah, I'm Christian, I love it.
And that's the thing. It's funny, there are a couple groups of Christians who actually had very positive things to say about the book series, even in ways that maybe we wouldn't have expected. After it was revealed, after J.K. Rowling revealed that Dumbledore was gay, there was one Christian minister who had been preaching against the books for years and years and years, who finally turned around and said, and this is why these are such great books, because we see that his love affair with Grindelwald led to disaster and ruin, falling into dark magic and killing his sister, and so on and so forth. And so it was interesting to see the sudden shift in the feelings as far as the books are concerned with regards to with regards to the allegories there contained. You would? Would you like to talk about that?
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, I don't have much substance, but from while you were talking, I went to the group of three, not the Hallows themselves, but Harry, Dumbledore, and Voldemort. Voldemort is the id because he's doing what he wants, what he feels. Dumbledore is more the ego because he does have a dark past, but he's dealing with the reality of the situation. And Harry would actually be the superego because he's trying to do what's right regardless of the reality.
Which I think leads to a number of interesting dynamics, especially considering those three characters, because they're so infrequently found in scenes together, and when they are, they very much act as the id, ego, and superego would act. The scene in the Ministry when Dumbledore is fighting Voldemort, and Harry is essentially trying to fight, but essentially cowering in the corner, and then all of a sudden, Voldemort takes over Harry's body. And we're led to this very peculiar instance where the id has taken over the superego. So, that's actually a common correlation that's made.
And my younger brother, there's another scene where my older brother was confused, but my younger brother wasn't, when the whole Harry's hormones were taking over. My older brother thought that was somehow Voldemort taking over. So he was.
And I think it's explained a little bit better in the books than it is. The visual medium isn't always accessible and doesn't usually make itself very well known. You really have to have a little bit of backstory and a little bit of background for it to matter. For those just joining us, feel free to join the circle. There's still a couple of open spaces. When I found out that I was the only Harry Potter panel this weekend, I didn't want to go with my super serial, lecture you about allegories and make you leave here needing to go like have a espresso with a very good friend to discuss how deep things were. So we decided to sit around in a circle. Anyone is welcome to throw ideas in the hat and we can discuss them amongst ourselves or across the circle. Feel free if you have something to add to the discussion.
I kind of like to talk about I've heard the theory somewhere that basically Ron, Hermione, and Harry actually represent the other houses within.
Well, because you're seeing a lot more of this, especially with like the popularity of Tumblr. You're seeing a lot more of the not every member of Gryffindor is brave, and so on and so forth. So there has been a theory moved around that in the original draft they were each supposed to be sorted into separate houses, and that they were supposed to represent those key qualities in each of those houses. Hermione obviously being a member of Ravenclaw, Harry being Slytherin, and Ron being the actual Hufflepuff, because obviously Ron would be the Hufflepuff. No offense to any Hufflepuffs in the group. We know you love to eat.
Thank God that's not the only hard part.
I don't know if he'd be Hufflepuff though, because throughout the book he kind of struggles with his loyalty to Harry. He, turns his back on him time and time again, but he always comes back. But
Isn't that really kind of the true definition of loyalty?
Yeah, that
it's
really
not
seems
getting
like,
along all the time, but always putting forth the effort to come back, apologize, say this didn't go correctly, and try to work it out.
yeah, but I don't know if I would count that.
He's not bad.
well, because Dumbledore counted on Ron to want to come back. He banked on Ron's desire to be there when it most mattered. And I really think that, sure, friends will come and go as you go through life. The ones who are there when you hit rock bottom and when you're having the hardest time are really the ones I would rather have around.
I also think struggling with something means you care about it a lot. So if you're struggling with your loyalty to somebody, it's obviously very important. Your loyalty to that person is very important to you. Because he's human, and I think that's one of the biggest things that makes Ron relatable. Like, Hermione is super smart, and how many of us can really truly relate to being like a genius, basically? Or how many of us can relate to being thrown into situations where we're like overwhelmed or we're the star, whatever?
Yeah, our life is being put in danger constantly.
Yeah. Whereas Ron struggles.
Ron's the companion.
Just like all of us, every day we have something we struggle with, whether it's school, whether it's deciding how to help a friend, whatever it is. So I think that's probably one of the reasons Ron is very important.
If Ron was following Harry with no thought to himself, he never took a break to think about what was going on, he would actually be loyal, he'd just be a servant.
Right.
And I think that he spends a lot of time thinking about that. He thinks about why he's there. And for a long period of time, he's not. And the fact that he does come back, the fact that he puts some thought into that, humanizes him in a way that a lot of other characters perhaps are not humanized throughout the series.
He is loyal, he just struggles with the humanity of it, I guess.
It'd be kind of hard because he does come from like a really large family where and I've been in this situation too, where you've got an older sibling who does a lot better things than you, and so he's Harry's friend because he obviously cares a lot about him, but he's also, again, under the stress of someone who's obviously more famous and successful than he is, and he probably is cracking under the pressure even more so because...
I mean, there's really an entire book that's all about Ron just not being okay with Harry being the chosen one. Goblet of Fire is all about Harry and Ron just going at it with each other.
And loyalty implies choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not blind faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I think that, I mean, I've been through more in the last couple of years of my life than most people probably will, being faced with my own mortality. I'm a cancer survivor, a very aggressive cancer survivor, and 4 years as of like 3 days ago. Thank you.
Right.
I can count on one hand the number of friends I have left.
And
that's one of the reasons I like Ron, was because I have a Ron. And I'm sorry, but like in the aspect of you still being here as my friend, you know, we have multiple facets of our Harry Potter. And but I think in that sense Ron's an underrated character, because what he emotionally struggles with is overlooked based upon what the other people, because like somebody said here, Hermione is celebrated because of her intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Harry is celebrated.
well, the
because he's
Weasleys in
chosen
general are relegated to being comedic relief, because our first real experience with the Weasleys, aside from the introduction to Ron, is the twins, who are jokesters and sort of laughable characters that are meant to lighten the mood, and they're the most memorable. They're the most memorable Weasleys because, and I mean, even our first introduction to the last name Weasley, they're making fun of it.
Yeah.
Curly hair, curly red hair, hand-me-down robes, must be a Weasley. It's that character is humiliated time and time again, from having to wear hand-me-downs, to getting secondhand books, to having a broken wand and not being able to afford a new one for a whole year. And the character is humiliated time and time again. And the intention behind that, I think, is to make that character the reader. I don't think at any point the reader is intended to be Harry. I don't think they're ever really intended to be Hermione. I think we're intended to be Ron. That's whose clothes they want to put us in. And I think the entire Hufflepuff house, the reason I think that it's not given a lot of clear definition as to what qualities define it is because deep down, that's us. That's the group of people who perhaps it has the least number of references in the books. It is the least celebrated of the houses. They never win the house job. And it's supposed to be the more human aspect of the books. The people that we are supposed to relate to the best.
Yeah, they're trying.
Yeah, the champion was a Hufflepuff.
It was Cedric Diggory. Cedric Diggory.
And he dies, and he is not avenged. He is never avenged.
Nope.
He is never given credit or justice. He doesn't get any.
He is a minor footnote of that year.
And he,
They don't say.
No, he does in the end of year speech that Dumbledore gives.
Yeah, it's a minor footnote. It's not.
It's not.
It doesn't carry on really to the other books.
A kid died.
Well, no.
That's the thing they don't bring up.
An amazing
That's true. And I guess they do spend a period of time. Dudley spends time making fun of Harry having dreams about Cedric, his boyfriend. So yeah, he gets brought back up, but I don't think he's given enough. I don't think he's really given his dues as far as a character who, when you look at all the other characters who are killed.
Is that
Bless.
not dark then? If Cedric is a Hufflepuff and Hufflepuff is somehow us, is it not dark that he is not avenged? Because if it's somehow metaphoric of where we can stand in life, like that could be us. We could have been another champion struck out. But then Harry, who is our hero, does remember Cedric. It's almost a hopeful note to the reader that there is a hero that you could have in your own life that may remember you. There is always going to be some way you can get back to your magic. You could get back to Harry.
And we live out our lives in relative anonymity. We as human beings live out our lives. Very few of us will become very famous. Very few of us will have much more than their 15 minutes of fame leading a panel. But we are immortal in the memories of our friends and loved ones. And that's a really, really important point and distinction to make. That Harry remembers Cedric, even when everyone else except Cho Chang forgets him. It's nice to know that Harry remembers him and that Harry has Harry, who is this very otherworldly and superior character, still is burdened by this one death. I mean, when he's experienced so much death in his very short life, from his parents to, I mean, his future wife almost dying right next to him. He almost dying numerous times. Him actually dying. Right? There are countless deaths in his life, and one of the ones that he routinely revisits is Cedric's. And if we are to accept the comparison that we as human beings, sort of the other folk, are lumped into the Hufflepuff house, then you're right, it does give us a little bit of hope that we have a certain degree of immortality, even though we may not think that we do.
I do have a question though as to what you guys think. Wasn't Harry supposed to have seen his mom die as a baby?
Are we talking about like why he doesn't see the statue?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why is because he was a toddler. His memory is not there of it. He saw it happen, but because he has no memory of it, that's why he can't see the Thestral.
Yeah.
Right.
He was probably laying down.
And to see a Thestral, they very clearly say that you have to have not only seen death, but sort of accepted it and understood it. I think, yeah.
And even with the Dementors, like he didn't see anyone die. He just saw flashes of green light and screaming. That's all he heard in his dreams from when he was young and he went to the Dementors. That's all he saw from it. He didn't actually legit see his mom get hit, fall over, and die.
But seeing death would also be metaphorical as far as like he's seen it on every other level but visually. Like he knows that it happened, he probably has a falsified memory of it too. Like all of the flashbacks we've seen of that scene, he probably has a falsified memory. Like when you know something's happened to you, you may imagine how it would have happened. And because the death was still real, I think that would be enough to allow you to see a Kestrel because it's about the emotional trauma you carry from it.
I don't know if it is because Luna wasn't very traumatized. I mean, she was weird as hell, but she, emotionally, she was okay, and she just don't see.
But she accepted it.
It's the acceptance, I think,
She
is more.
tells Harry that he's not crazy because she recognizes it.
Yeah, but how old was Luna when she
I had to
saw
do
her
it both
mom die?
properly,
That's the question.
She was like 9.
Luna was of
So
a
that's
thinking
different.
age.
That's
Right.
different from when Harry saw his mom die. He was like a toddler, like maybe like even 2.
He was one.
Yeah, so let's be real here. Like you usually don't have any memories of things that happen until you reach like 2 years old. So like the difference between Luna and Harry seeing death is a little different.
Just based on the comprehension and the cognitive abilities
Yeah.
of that age. Cognitive abilities such as memories and understanding doesn't really come around until you're about 5, 5.5.
By the way, Luna is very impressive in her emotional maturity, basically. She handles all kinds of bullying and just like all kinds of everything. She's okay.
And that's an amazing like example of real life. Oftentimes, individual children, only children from single parent households, are often light years beyond their friends and like cohorts with regards to emotional maturity and their ability to care for themselves. And because of that, they're often found in these situations where they may be considered weird or awkward in comparison to to other kids their age.
You know, just as a small footnote, did anyone else notice that it's a statue of Death himself that is entrapping Harry as Voldemort is killing Cedric?
Oh no, that kind of makes sense to me though.
Yeah, it made sense. It seemed poetic, I think.
Right.
It seemed to poetically align with what one would expect.
And
It by no means was trite, but it was definitely expected. If I'm not mistaken, God, it's been at least a year since I read that book, but it's supposed to be Tom Riddle's father's grave.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Standing
It is
on the
his
bones of my muggled father.
So,
Well, and I think that just goes with Voldemort's flair of.
Oh yeah, his flair for the drama.
Look at how much
Him and
people
Sirius
was,
Black, the biggest drama queens that ever did live.
Didn't he need it though for the potion?
Yeah, he needed it for the magic, to work the magic, but at the same time,
He didn't need to strap him to the
he didn't need to strap him to the gravestone
I've always
and
wondered
enchanted.
though, if Voldemort ever took any lovers, because I would love to talk about Voldemort's lovers, but of course we don't see
Voldemort,
He cannot love.
he is incapable of love.
Well,
As he was
I
the
don't mean
product,
actual love, I mean like, physically.
I don't think he was capable of that either. Being,
That would be interesting, I think.
because
I mean, let's just be blunt with it. We're talking about sex. Okay.
you have to have some sort of emotional attachment to
Tom
him.
Riddle?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Tom Riddle was.
I don't know. Physical
Like, he was way too
No, demisexual, right? Tom Riddle was an attractive man. It's just flat out said. Tom Riddle, as he grew up, was attractive. He was charming. He was flirtatious. We see numerous instances in which he charms lonely women out of their possessions. And I think that's intended to, I'm with you that I think that it's intended to sort of hint to the reader without being too blunt, because it's a young child's book series. Just like Doctor Who is a children's TV show. It's supposed to hint that his charm and his masculine wiles were probably just tools to him.
It was his
Yeah, I guess
power.
I would say the way I look at it is he never took lovers. He used it as a way of manipulation. To me, taking a lover, whether it's emotional or obviously you don't have to have emotions attached to it, but when you take a lover, you are getting something out of it in a sense of like
And you're
pleasure or
giving
enjoyment.
something.
And he does get something
Yes.
out of it. It's
But
just not
it's-
what's normal.
Yeah.
It's
I think
Sorry,
it's
if
a
you read
tool.
all of those books and think that Tom Riddle never got down, that's probably just naive.
No, but I'm saying
But that's the implication. We're meant, because it's a children's series, we're meant to not really delve into that.
Yeah.
But
Unfortunately.
it's, to me, taking a lover has something to do with enjoyment, whereas the way I see it, if he did have any kind of physical interaction with somebody, it was a means to an end. So it's not, in my mind, necessarily.
But it might not be the physicality of it that he enjoys, it would be more the power over the person he's involved with.
And that would be something I
Actually-
think he would be more attracted to.
She's trying to say something.
I'm sorry.
For the last 8 statements.
So I'm just kind of wondering on this. Has anyone ever kind of thought about like the relationship that he may have had with Bellatrix? Because throughout the
She's like in love with him,
Yes.
but clearly he can't love. So he has like this weird,
made her
she
loyal
has a weird
deliberately.
love obsession with him.
yeah.
Well, it's been very clear throughout the series of the books that he never had friends.
Oh.
He had underlings, he had people who thought they were his friend, but he never really had anybody that he reciprocated those feelings for, because he's incapable of feeling love. Is there anybody who doesn't understand why Voldemort is incapable of experiencing love?
He was
He was conceived under the effects of a love potion.
Right.
And it's made very clear in potions class that anybody conceived under the effects of a love potion will be from that point incapable of experiencing love themselves. And that means love in all forms. From like the love of your mother to the love of your friend.
Wow.
Sorry, that just.
There are 3
There are several service dogs this year.
I had one my first year here, and everybody touched it, and I cried.
And the 3 that I've seen don't have signs saying "Don't touch me" or anything.
There was someone who was written on it.
Did it?
Yeah, it was written.
Because the couple that I've seen, I haven't seen any notes, but just as a general announcement, don't touch anybody's service dog unless you ask permission first. It can make the dog very upset and agitated and cause a lot of future problems. So,
They're working, it might miss what it's supposed to be
The
doing.
handler can legally be thrown out of the voice business.
yes.
They're no longer protected by law once the dog is behaving irrationally, which really sucks if you're me and you're 7 and you have to leave now because somebody touched your dog.
So, just as a public service announcement, in case no one has mentioned it before, do not touch anybody's service animals whatsoever without first asking the permission of their owners.
Also, just general courtesy to ask the dog owner before you touch the dog.
Yeah.
But back to the subject at hand. That prohibits Lord Voldemort from experiencing any form of love whatsoever. He cannot feel romantic love, the love of his parents, the love of his family. He just doesn't experience it. It's impossible.
Kill somebody's pet out because he doesn't know about loving pets. I always
Yep. Yep, that's really what it boils down to.
Something to make him angry, so he's gonna take away something that he wants power over. I do think he understands what love is. He can't feel it, he can't get it himself, but I think he understands it enough that he uses it.
He understands the theory of love.
Not like a scientific understanding.
He understands it from a very scientific and very theoretical sort of standpoint. He does not understand it in practice.
When he understands, he can use it.
Defensive magic is theory. I want to talk about how those are related because Umbridge is really big on that theory is all that she's got. And she's wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, Dolores Umbridge is a lot of times when people are psychoanalyzing these books, they use the professors of Defense Against the Dark Arts as various evil incarnations throughout history. And one of the more like amazing and very in-depth theories that I read was that Dolores Umbridge is by far the most evil character in these books.
Let's be honest. Yeah, you wanted that.
She is compared to Lucifer himself in numerous studies and examinations of the symbolic importance of various characters. It places her above Lord Voldemort as far as like true evil is concerned. Because in the end, Lord Voldemort is defeated, but Dolores Umbridge goes on to live her fucking life.
We do get some justice.
She got tried,
She's an asshole.
but she's still alive.
But if you compare that to the devil as well, he
He's
was
in
a
prison.
fallen angel, and he was cast out of heaven. That would be kind of similar to what
If you
Umbridge
treat the
is.
ministry,
She's
if you
cast
accept
out.
the ministry of magic as heaven,
I don't really, but
in the archetypes of the book, the Ministry of Magic is heaven, Earth is Hogwarts, and Azkaban is considered hell. The only bad guy that we know for a fact ends up in Azkaban, living out their life in relative torture, is Dolores Umbridge.
But she did kind of get punished by the centaurs, and the centaurs dragged her off.
I thought they
For
explained
anyone
that
that
she was
knows
raped
centaurs,
by
And that's another reason that she's compared to Lucifer, because a lot of places compare centaurs to Native Americans, and her being the white devil, being dragged off by the natives of the Forbidden Forest.
I gotta wonder what they did with her.
It's very heavily implied
Amen
if you
Yeah.
read anything about like the centaur lore,
yeah.
like in connection. Pretty explicit.
Yeah, I feel like
They were not kind.
I feel like people hate Umbridge more because she seems more close to home about specific teachers that don't listen to you or tell you.
Or flat out tell you you are a liar.
Or
Yeah, when you are telling them.
she's an authority figure that is supposed to help protect you, and she does turn her back on you, and like she tortures Harry. Like he has those scars from her for years because it carves into his skin. That's like a huge breach of trust. Whereas Voldemort, he's evil, but
At least
that's
he's straight up
Voldemort.
with it.
Yeah, he's also unrealistic.
He stabs you in your stomach. He doesn't stab you in your back.
And it's said time and time again that evil will not present itself with bells and whistles. It shows up in your everyday life as quiet little temptations, and it seems very sweet and very inviting when you first see it. And that is what we have at Dolores Umbridge. We have this pink-clad grandmother character with kittens on with animated kittens on cute porcelain plates lining her walls, and a giant pink bow on her head.
Thought it was black.
It's black as well.
It is black because it looks like fly on top of a little toad head. You're correct. But she is just this very maternal, and if I ran into her at school, she'd be the librarian. She'd be the sweet little tottering woman who wanted me to learn as much as I could about my favorite subject. But we very quickly find out that she's actually this vile, despicable creature, and that she has only the faintest shred of humanity inside of her.
Can anybody else not watch the fairies in the Maleficent? Because I hate Umbridge so much. Seeing her in that like enrages me, and I have to like not pay attention to any time the fairies are in there.
She seems really nice. You would think that they would have changed her to not be the pink fairy and changed her over to
Do something.
I mean,
something.
She would've made a very
anything
good
but
blue.
pink, so we don't immediately go, oh my god, it's Umbridge.
I thought she was Meriwether, not.
No, she's the pink one.
Nope. She's Flora.
We
Look at
She is Flora. She's the
But
bright
that's
pink
nice.
bubbly one.
That's how much I hate Umbridge. I
And this
can't say
character
it's
is
completely different.
almost universally hated.
Well, I think
my
that
least favorite because of her.
Oh, it's my favorite because I hate her so
exactly what you
much.
guys are
That's
saying
my favorite.
speaking of book
goes
five,
to how amazing of an actress this woman is.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Because you don't think of her as a human being. You think she is.
Yep.
She is the character. And it's funny because that's not the first character I've seen her portray on screen, but it is the character I most associate with her. So now when I go back and watch other movies, I despise those other characters so much just because of that.
so speaking of book five, around the same year frame that book five is set in, the school is being essentially taken over by the ministry, which is the government, right? Well, here in America, we had something similar start to happen to us. Has anybody else made that correlation where here in America, the correlation of No Child Left Behind came in
Education
at the
reform.
exact same time?
At a very similar time in our history.
And it's almost the same thing happening.
And there are a number of interesting correlations that people have drawn between American politics, specifically George W. Bush, and the dark regime of the ministry. Cornelius Fudge's last year in particular. And this idea that he starts out with very good intentions, wanting to protect Harry, and then it turns into taking the one to protect this small space into we have to attack everything else. And that is a very often drawn correlation.
Okay, I wasn't sure. It's been a while since
I
I've
don't
done
Oh, no,
think
it's
it's
fine.
just the No Child Left Behind thing. I mean, just the whole government influence in schools comes in waves, if you ask me. Because when I was like a freshman in college, it was the evolution issue.
Yeah.
You know, and then before that, it was, you know, now you're not allowed to require that you say the Pledge of Allegiance because it has the word God in it. And like, I'm not Christian, but I'm also not offended easily. So like, if people want to pray, as long as they're not making me do it, it's cool. That's your thing. I get it. You know, but it comes in waves. There's going to be a big influence of somebody trying to take control, and there's going to be people fighting back. And
And
if
surprisingly-
you are an educator, you can, of course, tie that to Marxist theory.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
And this book series is so influential because at the time that it was, while it was being released, during those years, which would be, before I started high school, going into my college years, was when these books were being released. And so I started off reading way below my grade level and ended off reading even lower below my grade level. But they were so influential in worldwide politics, in education theory, in social aspects, they're a very liberal book set. And J.K. Rowling has an amazing quote when she's asked about the effects of her books and how liberal they are on a racist subtype, a group of people who are just going to be racist assholes. She says that she does not consider herself a pessimist, but more a realist, in that if you are determined to be racist, no amount of literature, be it fictional or nonfiction, will change your mind. But that it is her responsibility as a liberal, and as someone who cares about the world, to create another world where people are considered more equal than they are right now. Yeah.
Is it fair to draw that conclusion about J.K. Rowling's intention? I mean, I know that's what.
Oh, that's an actual quote from her.
Right? No. I'm saying, but given that none of the characters of color in that series have a backstory, have major roles in anything,
and this
in
is
the entire Wizarding universe.
This is a huge criticism of the books.
So people rate Hermione as being mixed race of black though, because she's only ever described as being dark and having thick hair.
Yeah,
It's
I've
true.
only seen one description of her skin and that she was very brown.
Yeah, it is actually, the character itself, according to J.K. Rowling, was originally intended to be a person of color. And it was the people who cast the film that chose to do otherwise. We all know about the Lavender Brown incident.
Oh, yeah.
Lavender Brown, for the first 3 films, was a gorgeous, swarthy black girl. She was lovely. And then the next book came out, and it described her making out with Ron, and saying that they could not tell while one person ended and the other began because their skin matched so well. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the next movie came, and Lavender Brown was a ginger girl.
Did it say that it was because of the skin? Or was just...
It is heavily implied.
Okay. Because, I mean, it's common to say you can't tell when one person ends and when one
If you
person
put your
begins
hand
without...
right here as you're kissing, you can't really tell when things end.
Yes.
It's also just a phrase when people get...
But the way the people who made the film interpreted it was, we have to recast her as a white girl. And what could have been a breakthrough role for a person of color went to just another white kid.
There's another character that does Boyle.
She lost all self-respect.
Yeah, there are a number of other characters who are very clearly stated to be people of color in the books, but are just completely changed in the films. And it's unfortunate, the only one who really carries over is Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas is pretty much the only character I know of. Kingsley. But he's the only student that we have regular access to, who is very clearly pointed out in the books to be of color, and that carries on into the film franchise.
What about show's representation?
There's also Lee Jordan, who does the commentary.
Lee Jordan is, but the commentary was that these characters did not have backstory, did not have history, and were not fully fleshed out. And of course, the argument that you're going to get from major proponents of the series and its inclusiveness is going to be, those characters don't need backstories, they're not the main characters. Which speaks to our own internalized racism, but is a valid enough point that it deserves to be brought up. But really, the only character who is given significant story, Dean Thomas, and given a clear skin color that is carried over, is him. Lee Jordan is not given anything other than being the announcer. I hate to use this word. He is a token character for the action sequences.
He's there to tell the Wizarding world, hey, we spotted so-and-so during, they're out camping. On the radio, they hear him saying, okay, these people have died, or these people got away, or whatever. You hear about him in the 7th book. And then the only other time you hear about him is or is it a her? I never really understood. Was Lee Jordan a male or a female?
So this is actually why Lee Jordan is one of my top 5 favorite characters. because they are so ambivalent as to its gender.
Wasn't Lee Jordan one of the twins' best friends?
Yes.
And always helping them with their experiments and stuff.
But so infrequently actually seen or heard. Mentioned periodically, but like as far as social situations outside of being an announcer or disembodied voice, does not get very much, I want to say screen time, but it's not really the right word for it. Yeah.
The only other thing I know Lee Jordan for is being the background person to Fred and George. As always being there when they pulled something off spectacular, but never got any recognition for being part of that prank.
Yeah.
I do think that's very interesting though, because like reading it, I just automatically assumed Lee Jordan was male. I never would have thought Lee Jordan was female.
Yeah,
And so like that
I always
speaks-
thought Lee Jordan was female.
Well, and I feel like that speaks to like the way I internalize society and the way that I look at the world, and I think that's a really interesting.
But don't we have that one scene when McGonagall is trying to like Lloyd and they use pronouns. I don't think he is called male in that scene.
Is he?
He didn't have it. He had no idea. I think.
It's been a long
Time to pull up Google.
Yeah.
Ask the Oracle.
Let's find out.
I was almost sure in the very first book that Harry describes it as a boy with dreadlocks. In the very first book. In fact, I think it's when he's on platform 9 3/4.
It was dreadlock. I never dreadlock.
Yeah, I remember talking about somebody with dreadlocks, but I didn't associate that.
And I
with
don't-
the
Yeah, I never really
like-
associated with Lee either, to be honest. It is as I remember that scene, it is a nameless character who is introduced to us, and we are never really told that that is intended to be Lee Jordan. Well, Lee Jordan is clearly male in the video games.
Right.
First of all. Is he clearly male in the movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the movies, clearly
I don't
male.
know. I don't think it's
I feel like he's very, very androgynous.
Well, I don't know if the movies they ever actually say his name.
Perceivably androgynous, but the actor is probably very.
Oh yeah, I'm certain the actor.
So,
Actually, you are correct. A boy with dreadlocks was surrounded by a small crowd. Give us a look, Lee. Go on.
No, I love the idea that somebody should actually write that. That would be awesome if it didn't happen in this case, but it would be awesome.
I also don't recall where it says that Hermione is darker skinned.
She's in the third book. She's like,
She is
it's
described as
blonde.
having-
Ron looks very red because he's also white, but then Hermione's very brown.
but just very brown, but no thing after it. But yeah, that's I get that she was the leadway to thinking that she was in fact.
And I always envisioned the character to be of African descent to some degree.
Right. I was her hair description.
Yeah.
I also
That
never envisioned her
kinky,
to be.
wiry hair.
Well, I guess for me, like I always had like really, if I didn't name it, I always had very bushy hair, and I get really dark in the summers. So I guess that's why I envisioned her as someone kind of more along the lines of me.
That's true. Let's be honest. An English summer requires that you carry an umbrella at all times.
No, wait, that's the least. I think
But in any case, the idea that just like the character is not described with any particular gender that we assume they're male, unless the book specifically emphasizes that the person is dark skinned, we assume that they're white. Which is the same thing for pretty much every single
It is.
character.
It is our
in that
internalized sort of like subconscious racism and misogyny.
Well, is there somebody who is not white who read? Because I feel like it depends on your race. I'm white, so I imagine the characters as white because I relate to them. But you know, maybe somebody of color would relate them more along their lines. Maybe me.
I had a friend who was of African descent that lives alongside with me, and always imagined Harry and Hermione being of African descent.
Okay.
Harry
So-
never described. They just say that he has clear skin.
Well,
He doesn't
he's
have
also got green eyes.
Like no acne.
Yeah,
Green eyes, and his mom's a ginger. So,
You had something.
Okay, you probably all remember how they changed the color of like Brian's dress.
Yes.
I think that I think part of that might have had to do with like periwinkle would have looked nicer on someone with a darker
skin tone.
Yes. So like they thought like Emma Watson, how like they had to change the color of the dress so it looked nicer on her.
Look, she looked just as nice with the edit instead of periwinkle blue.
Yeah, there's people that have edited it.
But that's the thing that that was actually one of the, there are very few things in the transition from book to movie that I yelled and screamed about. And the choice of dress color for her was one of the things that I was like really upset with.
I know, me too, for some reason.
I don't know why that is.
I really yelled and screamed about was in the very first movie when they took out Hermione's potion scene.
Oh,
When they're trying to get to the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
I was
That was ridiculous.
right after Ron does the chessboard bit, Hermione and Harry actually go on to the next room, and Hermione makes the choice to go back and help Ron and alert the others, while Harry goes on to face what he still thinks is Snape.
You had something, man?
Kind of a random question.
I have a random answer.
In the 7th book, when after Harry dies, and this like the creature thing that Dumbledore says can't be helped. But I don't really get what that.
Oh, and you're talking about little Voldemort's soul?
Well, Voldemort's last bit of Voldemort's soul.
Yeah.
At,
So
in King's Cross Station, for anybody who didn't hear his question, in King's Cross Station, after Harry has been killed with the Avada Kedavra curse, I'm sorry I said it out loud.
I know, everybody kind of does.
I know everyone's kind of went, especially since I'm carrying my cane today because my ankle's not doing too great. When he is killed by the Avada Kedavra curse, he finds him. I know I did. He finds himself in King's Cross Station with Dumbledore and a writhing, sort of pathetic-looking creature, and he expressed that he didn't quite understand who that was intended to be. It is made pretty clear through Pottermore and additional discussions with J.K. Rowling that that was intended to be the mangled soul portion of Tom Riddle or Lord Voldemort.
Okay, this is just a question. I want to know how many people got very mad in the movie for having both the other one.
Yes.
It's actually one of the first things we talked about.
It was ridiculous. I liked that in the book he healed his own wand because his own wand was good enough.
That's what really pissed me off.
Yeah, I don't care if he broke it, but
He was still using Dracos, I do believe.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Listen, Star Trek has taught us that movie canon can be ignored as much as you want.
perfect.
But that said, it is pushing about that time. We have 10 minutes until the next panel begins. So I would love to talk about more of this with you guys. If you see me walking around the con, if you see me at room parties and you want to talk some more about Harry Potter, please come talk to me. My name is Joshua Malfoy. My actual legal last name is Malfoy. I can show you my credit card right now.
did you change it to that? Or?
He's like, I'm going to pull that shit.
It literally says Malfoy.
My last name literally is Malfoy. So, don't pass my debit card. Next thing I know before.
Turn it up.
So, I love talking about Harry Potter, and I'd love to talk about it with each and every one of you. Find me, come talk to me, what have you. I'm going to run to my room real quick and change out of this incredibly hot, like, sweaty cosplay. But thank you guys so much for coming to my panel. Hopefully we can do it again. Not really. But I wanted If you guys wanted to help me put the chairs back, that'd be really awesome while we pay you a tie.
What flavor is it?
It is a mixed sampler pie from